Mom's rule, right? Which is why I'm here, a place that I spent every summer growing up in, and it always makes me feel at home, takes me right back. And it's my base of operations today as I plan the best Mother's Day present that I've ever given, and I'm really, really excited to get started. Now, I would say when it comes to crafting the perfect gift for me, there are two things that are like ultra personal. I would say first would be if I sing for you, that's like the most personal I could possibly get. And the second would be cooking for you. And basically the fancier the thing I cook for you, the more I care. But really, I guess it's the culture I grew up in, and it's just, I love that food, it's really about coming together and spending time together. And food is like the easiest excuse that no matter what you believe or no matter who you are, we all can enjoy good food. So that's why I often cook. So that would be the first aspect to consider when planning this gift. You know, food and something that they would really love, which brings us to aspect number 2. My mom's most recent obsession, which is coffee. I mean, look at this absolute beast. So let's make the first ingredient that we need.
This ingredient is part of a legendary California cake recipe that was thought to be lost forever. We'll get to that whole story later. But for now, we need a few more ingredients.
All right, so let's get to work. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure out our dry ingredients. I always recommend separating your dry ingredients from your wet ingredients and preparing both individually. That way you stay a little more organized. You know, you kind of keep things more clean, which is the thing I am absolutely the worst at. I am notorious for being an absolute hurricane in the kitchen, but I have tried to get better over time. And one thing that really helps me is preparing and separating those dry and wet ingredients. Highly recommend. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to sift all of these together. I'm not a pro, but I'm pretty sure that this is to get like if there are like any chunks in the flour, to make sure that those don't get in, because it makes for a less moist cake. It ruins the chemistry and the way that the flour captures the air, so I think it results in a less quality product. Looking at this flour, it looks all of a sudden like incredibly fine compared to how I scooped it out. So now we'll sift 3/4 cups of the sugar. That's kind of fun. And then the salt, I have perfect measured already. Quick through there, sure. All right, so we have our dry ingredients together. A bird just hit the window. But anyway, I'm preparing the lemon zest here. So we have 1 lemon, and the recipe calls for 1 tablespoon of lemon zest. I just wanted to include this because the one thing I just recently learned is when you zest a lemon or lime or something, you really don't want to shave it too deeply, because the deeper you go from just the outside of the rind, like the white part before you get to the actual fruit, is more bitter. So if you really want like that sweeter zest flavor, you really just want to barely get the outside of the lemon. So now we want to take our eggs and we want to separate the eggs. And we want to separate the egg whites from the egg yolks. And you can buy tools to do this. I kind of just play a little game called catch the egg yolk back and forth. Eventually comes out. This one's being a little stubborn. But it's really important not to get any of the egg yolk in your egg white, because we're going to be whipping the egg whites later. And we want to be able to get them really thick. And if you have a bunch of egg yolk or other things in there besides egg white, it's going to prevent that from happening, which is really bad. Now we're going to take our egg yolks and 1/4 cup of the sugar and put it in your stand mixer, or if you have a bowl, a hand mixer or whatever, use that. I'm using my grandma's Bosch, which she uses for her cinnamon rolls, and I'm praying that her amazing baking abilities will somehow transfer to me, but we'll see. And we're just gonna whip them until you get to a pale yellow in color.
And now would be a fantastic time to preheat your oven to 350 degrees.
Show the camera. See, it's pretty dang pale. Now we're gonna take this and we're gonna transfer it to another bowl, and we're gonna wash this really well, because now we're gonna whip the egg whites. I mean, ideally, if I had my own mixer, I probably, or just having multiple bowls that would fit onto this Bosch, and there probably are other bowls in this kitchen that fit, but I don't know where they are. So, you know, we're gonna just take our time here and get this all out. We need to add the water, oil, and vanilla to this. So I already measured these all out. And I'm just gonna mix this by hand with a whisk because I already cleaned the Bosch bowl. Now we're gonna start mixing these egg whites. And now we're gonna beat these until they're frothy. Beat these, frothy. It's like a bunch of bubbles in there. Now I'm gonna add the cream of tartar. And now I'm going to mix until soft peaks form. So once you get to soft peaks, which how do I know they're at soft peaks? It's when you pull out the whisks and basically the egg whites will fall into the perfect Dairy Queen ice cream cone, little like Grinch mountain, where it's not stiff, right? The peak doesn't stay pointy, it curves over. That's a soft peak. So when I get soft peaks, I'm gonna put in the remaining ½ cup of sugar that we prepared, and now I'll beat it until it gets to stiff peaks. So now, I'm gonna add that lemon and mix just for like 10 seconds or so to incorporate it, and then we're gonna be good to go. It's like ASMR. No? Okay. Now we're gonna fold in our egg yolk mixture from earlier. Why do we fold it in? We want to keep all the volume and air that we just whipped into the egg whites. And we want the air because that air is gonna help our cake be light and fluffy and moist and delicious. Our dry ingredients, and we're gonna fold this in a little bit at a time, like probably a third of it at a time.
Convection bake, you either want to lower the temperature or decrease the time. Overall.
Well, what do you think? So this recipe, you're not supposed to cook it in 2 smaller pans. So it usually cooks in a taller pan to cook all the way through for an hour. And it gets, by the end of an hour, it's golden brown on the outside and should be cooked through. But it's gonna cook through faster. So maybe a higher, not sure, I'm nervous.
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, let me think. Remember how I said this could be a complete disaster? Yeah, let me think. I'll think about it.
Crisis potentially averted. I think it's about time I finally tell you what we're making.
Dang, it's like opening a Ferrari door.
The year was 1890. Simon and Clements Blum opened a confectionery in sunny San Francisco. Over the next several decades, business would boom, leading to locations opening from New York City all the way to Beverly Hills. For this Mother's Day, I decided to turn to Blum's most famous invention, coffee crunch cake. This recipe was thought to be lost when Blum's businesses were eventually sold from the family and ceased to exist 50 years ago. But it was recalled and recreated by a few meticulous California bakers, most notably Valerie Gordon at the request of the Los Angeles Times. She happens to own the bakery across the street from me, which is how I got my hands on this recipe. This cake was said to be born of an accident. A French-trained pastry chef accidentally overcooked their coffee caramel. But like any good resourceful chef, they repurposed it into a honeycomb and threw it on a cake. Instant hit. Disclaimer to the brave bakers following along in the description. This candy is like molten lava. Be careful. This is my favorite part. It's called free therapy. And just like that, we have done almost everything we need to do for the cake. You want to save the final steps for right before you serve because you want that candy crunch really crunchy. Now, this was only part 1 of the Mother's Day celebration. Let's tune in to how part 2 is going. Now we're here, Main Street, Park City. Oh yeah, you're in it now. Oh yeah. And we are going to my favorite restaurant in the city, and I can't wait to go. I think it's gonna be a real treat. Isn't it funny that Park City used to be a horrible place? This is the place, they say. Oh baby. River Horse and executive chef Seth Adams know their audience. It mostly takes familiar Rocky Mountain comfort food and elevates it to its furthest reaches without completely alienating the locals. Combine that with its beautiful location on historic Main Street and frequent performances by cozy local musicians, you get something truly special. The kitchen even prepares a special hors d'oeuvre alongside a delightful focaccia, all in the house to tease you with what's to come. I've never seen the same teaser twice. Also, don't sleep on that fresh rosemary butter. We started with pecan-crusted sea scallops and fresh strawberry, as well as the best lobster bisque I've ever had. You're looking at a cognac-roasted marshmallow topped with tobacco caviar. For main courses, the mothers both got macadamia nut-crusted fresh-caught halibut, while I got scallop and shrimp tom kha. My brother got a delicious bone-in filet with pesto gnocchi. That was my personal favorite.
Best restaurant in Park City, yes or no?
Yes.
All right, Grandma. No feelings are hurt or anything. What do you think? Best restaurant in Park City you've been to?
Yes.
Boom, 2 thumbs up. Brian, what do you think over there?
I think Canoe House in Hawaii is way better.
Well, that's coming soon. Tune in next time, or 10 times from now. Back on Main after River Horse. Great time, highly recommend. Of course, we saved room for dessert, so it's time to go finish that dang cake.
So what did the people have to say? And that's it. I'm still figuring out how to do this. I didn't exactly shoot an ending. It turns out that when you're with your family and you're having these adventures and doing these things, that pulling out a camera can really ruin the moment. So I'm figuring out how to do this really and figuring it out as I go. But anyway, if you made it this far, I really appreciate you. I would love to hear your feedback. I would love to hear your stories of your Mother's Day. Drop them in the comments. And thank you for being here. Have an awesome day. Smash like and subscribe. Peace.